And a very good afternoon, Tuesday after the big game yesterday, last night. Not much of a great game from the standpoint of greatness, like the game before, the day before, but it was there. And if you like Baylor, you bet on Baylor. You did okay. You had a very relaxing evening. And of course, if you did go with Gonzaga, well, right then and there, you had a miserable night to go through. I certainly don't envy anything that you're doing there. So, anyway, thank you very much for listening. And just a reminder, you're in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Live right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Also on podcasts, we're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon. We're on just about every major podcast that you could think of. So that's where we are, and here's where we are. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. We totally appreciate you listening to the game. Our numbers have been getting better. We went through the roof yesterday with some of the numbers, did very, very well. Thank you very much. We're grateful for that, and we know that you guys out there are the ones that are making it happen. So anyway, thank you very much for listening once again. So let's take a look at recount a little bit yesterday's game, last night's game. I know if you've been listening to sports radio throughout the day, they've been taken apart, let you know what went wrong, what went right, what could have been, what should have been, all things of that nature. But of course, as far as we're concerned, we are interested in only one important point, not who wins or loses, but who covers. Okay, want to make sure that whoever we're on covers in that particular game. And Baylor in this game, 4.5-point underdog, shocked Gonzaga by some estimates, 86-70, and now they're the NCAA National Championship team. The Bears cashed in, if you bet on them on the money line, at plus 175. And they also, at the same time, they denied Gonzaga the very first undefeated season going back to 1975-76. It's only happened once in the entire history of the NCAA tournament. That was back in 75-76. Indiana Hoosiers. Bobby Knight was the coach of that game. You can see how difficult it is to go through the whole season undefeated and then coming into the championship games being undefeated. There have been 3 or 4 teams that have come into the championship undefeated, but they didn't leave undefeated. Indiana was the only team to do that. The pros were right on. We talked about Baylor right from the start. They saw the Bears open at 5, and once they started pouring their money in, the sports was kind of retracted a little bit, came down to 4.5. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Some books even touched 4 at some times as well. But essentially, all the liability was on Baylor's side. There's no doubt about that. And with Baylor's win and their cover, of course, the NCAA tournament dogs finished March Madness with a profitable 56%, 37-29 against the spread. The short dogs, those are dogs that are 5-point dogs or less. They went 14-8 against the spread, and that's 64%. Now, meanwhile, the dogs in which the line stayed the same, or if it moved in their favor, perhaps like Baylor did yesterday, they were 21-14 against the spread. They were at 60%. Meanwhile, the slow-paced dogs, they went 55% against the spread as well. So as far as the dogs, contrarian betting, which is what we really feature here on the show. If you've listened to the show before, you know we're primarily contrarians. Not that we won't go on to a favorite, as long as there's some value there. I mean, when I say we, I'm speaking about the pros. We follow the line movement. by following the line movement. We know in which direction the pros are going. They're doing all the work for us. All we're doing is riding on their coattails. The under also cashed in on this championship game as well. The total opened at 160, dropped down to 159, despite a majority of the tickets that were coming in on the over. The general public expected a big, high-scoring game to take place. This was a classic example of what we talk about on the show that's called the reverse line movement. And this was a reverse line movement on the under. The game landed on 156. And so the unders finished the NCAA tournament at 59%, 38 and 26. Now, if the total was 140 or higher, like it was yesterday, the unders went 64%, 18 and 10. Now, if the total was 150 or more, the under went 78%. So if the total stayed the same or it fell under, the under went 28-17 at 62%. So yesterday, contrarians who were on Baylor and who were on the under did very, very well. The dogs and the unders was a smart bet throughout the entire March Madness tournament. Once again, it proved to be a great time to go contrarian because, once again, we talked about this before. The influx of public betting, the casual bias towards favorites and towards the overs. We've talked about the psychology of the average bettor. They love favorites. They love home teams. They love a lot of points being scored. When it comes to basketball, they're looking for teams that have a star on them in order to bet for them as well. College basketball might be over, but there's some things that are still going on. You have 14 Major League Baseball games on tap. You got 8 NBA games and 9 NHL games. Now we have a couple of games we want to talk about today as far as baseball is concerned. One of them is about to start, and I just want to tell you who our selection would have been according to the way the pros would have been playing this game. So it's just an idea of keeping a close tab on the numbers. So we'll have a good idea over a long period of time as to how well following the pros, being on their coattails as far as baseball is concerned. We'll watch it. We'll clock it for you. We'll give you an update every single day that we go along. But of course, like we said, in college basketball, especially in the tournament, the contrarians ruled. The dogs were barking loud and clear most of the time, as well as the unders. And again, you have to understand something. With 25 to 26 states now involved in legalized sports betting, you have millions, literally millions of new bettors coming into the game. And when it comes to the tournament, the NCAA tournament, March Madness, there are people out there that is the only thing they bet on. They save their money all year long. They put it aside or whatever they're going to do, and they wait for that March Madness to come, and that's when they come in with their money. So they're coming in with all of their biases. So whenever you see a line going from being a 3-point favorite to a 4-point favorite to a 5-point favorite, that is the money that's coming in from the people out there in the general public. So that's what we kind of key on. That's what we look at. And of course, like we always say, the sports books are aware of these biases, and when they know they're on their way and they're there, they adjust the lines. So this way, if you're betting on a favorite, more than likely you're betting on an inflated line. Doesn't mean you're going to lose. Okay, the team may do that well to go ahead and win by that particular score. However, what that also does, it gives us contrarian bettors more points in our pockets as well. So that's the story. We talk about that all year long. We're going to continue to talk about it. We're going to talk about baseball because baseball is primarily a money line sport. We'll talk about that when we come back after our first break. In addition to that, we're also going to take a look and give you an idea. So, there were some other sports going on yesterday. So we're going to kind of take a look at those as well and kind of let you know what happened as far as the betting situation was concerned. So let's take that first break. And when we come back, that's going to be the first order of business. So just a reminder, we take 3 breaks in the show. Each one is about 1 minute duration. And if that's the case, we'll be back in 60 seconds. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. We're coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina, right here on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. And no matter what time zone you're in, welcome to the show. We're in Charlotte, which is in the Eastern time zone. We're also on a lot of the podcasts as well. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Spreaker, Amazon Radio, iHeartRadio. We're just about everywhere that you can imagine we can be. So before we get going into what happened yesterday, I just want to cover this one game because it just started and I don't want to wait too long so that somebody would say, oh, I know why you picked that team, because you knew what was going on. So we're going to take a look at this 4:05 game, the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals. This was a game that we would have given to you had we been on the air earlier or had the game been later. And once again, the reason why we're telling you about it, I know you can't bet on it right now. You might want to bet on it after the first 5 innings. You might look at betting into that situation. That's totally up to you. But we want to keep a record of where the pros are and how they are doing. We want to be as honest with it and as accurate as possible. So this is a National League East matchup. You got a winless Braves team that just got swept up by the Philadelphia Phillies against the Nationals, a team making its season debut. Haven't played yet because of the virus. They've been delayed because of the positive tests that they've been coming up with. The Braves will start lefty Drew Smyly. He was 0-1 last year with a 3.42 ERA, while the Nationals counter with their ace, Max Scherzer, 5-4 with a 3.74 ERA last season. That's what happened last year, and now this year, here's what the story is, especially with the line. It opened with Washington, a minus 125 home favorite. Like we said, baseball is primarily a money line sport. The pro money has jumped on the underdog Braves, dropped Atlanta from being a plus 115 down to a plus 105. The Braves have value because they're a divisional dog, and divisional dogs are 51% so far this season. Now, the pros may be leaning on the Braves here because they have 3 games under their belt, while the Nats are still recovering from the COVID positives. This is actually their first game of the season. So in that particular situation, the pros are on the Atlanta Braves. We have a couple other games to take a look at. We'll look at the Cardinals against the Marlins and the Blue Jays against the Texas Rangers. But before we get to that, we want to get through what we normally do right in the beginning of the show, but we wanted to kind of bring you up to date with what was going on yesterday, the numbers, how the numbers came out for us as far as contrarian bettors in the tournament and things of that nature. So we kind of went into that first. Normally, we do start the show because unless there's some headline like that we talk about, we normally do start by telling you what happened yesterday in the world of sports as far as betting is concerned. So we're talking about baseball. Yesterday, the favorites went 8-4 straight up. The Rays Red Sox closed as a pick'em, so you did have one pick'em in there. The biggest upset was by the Pirates, by the Phillies. I'm sorry, the Phillies, plus 172 on the money line against the Mets. And the Giants were a plus 135 against the Padres. So the underdogs still lead 30-26 straight up in this very new season with 3 picks also as well. Now, the unders went 8-5 yesterday. They have a slim lead on the season of 30-28, and that's how the Major League Baseball season kind of worked out for yesterday. Meanwhile, in the NBA, the favorites went 4-3 straight up, but the dogs were barking, and they were barking loud and clear. 6-1 against the spread. The T-Wolves, the Mavs, and the Cavs pulled off upsets, while the Wizards, the Knicks, and the Rockets, even though they did lose their games, they did cover in those games as well. Meanwhile, the favorites lead on the season so far, 366-361 against the spread. The overs yesterday went 4-3, but the unders, they still lead 370-369, a very slim lead of only one game. Over in the National Hockey League, the favorites went 5-2 straight up. You had upsets by the Flyers, who were a plus 148 against the Bruins, and the Coyotes a plus 110 against the Kings. The overs also went 5-2. After the unders were 22-8-2 over the last 3 days. That's the story. The overs finally came back yesterday. The unders still lead 294-271, which is 52% on the season so far. Meanwhile, looking at first period unders, they went 4-3 yesterday, and they lead, and they're at 53.2% so far this season. So that takes care of the NHL, the NBA, and Major League Baseball all as well. So anyway, that's the story. When we come back, we're going to take our second break. And of course, when we do return, we're going to take a look at 2 other games that are on tap for tonight. Wow. Boy, my throat really went dry there for a minute. So anyway, we will be back right after this break. We'll go into those 2 games that are on tap. We'll be back right after this. And welcome back. Welcome back to the Sports Wagering Zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Looks like my throat came back again. A little sip of water, a little something to munch on for a second to kind of calm things down. So anyway, I want to apologize for that little bit of break there. I lost my voice for a moment, but looked around, and there it was. Picked it back up again. Here we go again. So we got two games to look at for tonight as far as baseball is concerned. We talked about the game that's already in progress, the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals. Nationals may finally get a game in. They haven't played their first game because of the COVID situation. The pros in that game are on the Atlanta Braves. Meanwhile, at 6:40 p.m. Eastern Time, the St. Louis Cardinals against the Miami Marlins. The Cardinals are 2-2. The Marlins are 1-3. The Cardinals took last night's series opener 4-1. They cashed in as a short 100 plus on the road dog situation. And in today's game, game two, St. Louis will go with John Gant. Didn't have a record last year, but he had a 2.40 ERA, so he had no wins, no losses. And the Marlins are going to come out with their ace, Sandy Alcantara, who pitched the opening day, went 6 innings, giving up no runs, struck out 7 when they played the Rays in that game. Looking at the line, it opened. Both teams listed as virtual pick'ems at a minus 105 on that money line. We've seen the pros get down on the fish, driving Miami up to from 115 up to 120 as the favorite in this particular game. Now, teams with a line move of 10 or more in their favor are 13-8 this season so far. That's 62%. Keep reminding you, the break-even point, 52.3. The pros have targeted the under in this game as well. They immediately hit the under at 8 when it opened, and that forced the odds makers to shift that total down to 7.5. That's the impact that the pros have when they come in with their money on whether they're betting on the team or if they're going for the over-under as well. So in this particular game, the Cardinals against the Marlins, the pros are on the Miami Marlins. Meanwhile, at 8 o'clock tonight, the Toronto Blue Jays, they're 3-1 up against the Texas Rangers, who are 1-3. Now, the Jays, they took game 1 of the series yesterday. They won 6-2. They were minus 148 on the road as a road favorite. And in today's rematch, Toronto's going to start their veteran, Tanner Roark, who was 2-3 last season with a 6.80 ERA. And Texas will come in with Dane Dunning, who was 2-0 last season with a 3.97 ERA. Now, looking at the line for tonight, opened with Toronto, a short minus 120 road favorite. The pro money has steamed the Jays, driving Toronto up to minus 130. Once again, an indication of steaming. Steaming is when a lot of money comes in one fell swoop like that, moving a line 10 points in one particular move. Now, some books are even at 135, which brings it up even higher. So check with yours as to what it is. The teams with a line move of 10 or more in their favor, like we said before, they're 13-8 so far this season, which equates to 62% for the season. Now, the Jays are +5 in run differential this season. The Rangers, they're -11. That's why they're 1-3. Now, there also looks to be some over liability as the total is 9.5, with the over being juiced up to -120. Understand something. Whenever they're ready to move a line, the first thing that happens is the juice goes up from 110, which is the normal juice, up to 120. It may go to 125, and then from that point, the line will then move to 10 or 9, whichever direction they want it to go. So keep an eye on the roof at Globe Life Field. If it stays open, the weather could really benefit the over because the wind is projected to blow out to center field at 20 miles per hour. So if you're going to be betting the over under, make sure you find out whether or not the roof is going to be open, because if it stays open, wind, the over will more than likely take place as well. So that's the story. Toronto against the Texas Rangers. The pros in this particular game are on the Toronto Blue Jays as well. So once again, recapping the three games that we have on tap for today. A game that has already started. The Atlanta Braves against the Washington Nationals. The pros are on the Atlanta Braves. The St. Louis Cardinals against Miami. Pros are on the Miami Marlins. At 8:05, the Toronto Blue Jays against the Texas Rangers. It's the Toronto Blue Jays as the selection of the big money. Anyway, just to give you an idea, we're trying to follow this particular sport, this America sport, baseball, all its history and everything that goes with it, all the data that we take in on, and following the money line, following the line movement, seeing in which direction the pros are going, which is the same system that we utilized during the NFL season and very, very successfully during the college tournament as well. So far, it's been kind of slow, mainly because some games have been canceled, postponed, whatever you want to call it. So far, we've had only 9 wagers. We have 3 on tap for today. And out of those 9 wagers, we had 4 losers. We had 4 winners, and 5 losers. So far, we're 4 and 5. We've got 3 games on tap for today. We'll keep you up to date as to how well that is going. Kind of keep an eye on it, keeping in mind that this is a money line sport. So that even though you may be losing more games than you're winning, sometimes it's made up on the plus end by being contrarian on the games that you do win on, where they are huge underdogs as well. So that's how that works. That's how it goes. We're going to take another break, and it's our final break of the day. And of course, when we do come back, we're going to take a look at golf, because coming up, the big tournament down in Georgia. You know, it's funny. They moved the All-Star game in baseball. They moved it from Atlanta over to, now it's going to be in Denver, in Colorado. They tried to put some pressure on the PGA and wanting to move the Masters out of Georgia. Good luck with that. You talk about tradition and everything else that goes along with it. This is the only golf game throughout the season that year after year is played at the same golf course down in Augusta, Georgia. So we're going to take a look at a couple of the golfers coming up, kind of give you some thoughts and ideas on some betting tips on them as well. And of course, we'll do that right after this most important message. And welcome back. You're back in the sports wagering zone. I'm Chris Pardo. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Also podcasting on most of your major podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, Spreaker. We're on just about most of the major platforms for podcasting. So let's take a look at golf because this is it. The Masters coming up. It seems just like yesterday then Dustin Johnson won the Masters in a real dominant fashion. Well, it wasn't that far off because I think it was about 5 months ago to be exact. And because the scheduling cancellations that have gone on, the postponements, the quirks that caused by the coronavirus pandemic have been mostly negative. But this is a major positive. The biggest betting event in golf is making a quick comeback, and nobody, believe me, nobody is complaining at all. There's not a lot of buzz about Johnson, which is odd because his 20 under par score blew away the field back in November, and he's coming back to the same golf course in Augusta National as the 9-1 favorite. Now that's at BetMGM. Johnson is the only player in single digit odds on the board right now at BetMGM. Now, DJ's odds have been so low for so long that he's been kind of out of form. So most people have been shying away, staying away from him. Okay. Johnson is not forgotten, however, but he hasn't found that winner's circle since the day Tiger Woods in the 2019 Masters champion handed him his first green jacket. Okay. Woods is obviously missing this week. He's still recovering from those serious injuries from that car accident back in February. Yet his absence in being the biggest, I guess you would say, he's probably the biggest star in the sport of golf. He still is. And he's not really hurting as far as the wagering is concerned. He's not hurting that aspect of gambling right now. It's already great, according to John Avello, who's the DraftKings Sportsbook director. He said it's already great. He says, our handle is actually higher than it's ever been coming into the Masters week. Tiger draws money regardless of what his odds are and how he's playing. If it wasn't for Tiger, Avello says, I don't think golf betting would be where it is today. Now, even without Woods, golf betting is thriving. It's due to the high-profile stars such as Dustin Johnson, and then you got those young guns who pack that potential firepower to win their first major ever. Now, few other sports present opportunities to get that winning ticket at a long shot odds on a weekly basis as golf does. Cashing a ticket is not easy, and playing the favorite in an elite 88-player field is seldom advised. So take a shot at beating the favorite. So look past Johnson. Consider these couple of players who have little odds that are longer. Jordan Spieth, for instance, 11-1. In early February, he started showing signs of finding his lost game. His Masters odds were up around 60-1 at that time. He's finally coming back, stopping that 4-year winless streak on Sunday at the Texas Open down there in San Antonio. So the odds are no longer a bargain on Jordan, but the 2015 Masters champion, he figures to be in the hunt regardless of what it is. Justin Thomas is at 11-1. Driving distance is imperative at Augusta, where shorter hitters off the tee are definitely at a disadvantage. Thomas, he's different. He's long off the tee, and he's very precise with his iron play. He's about as good as it gets on that PGA Tour. Now, he's again at 11-1. Now, Brooks Koepka, 25-1. He's a 4-time major champion and is getting odds as high as 40-1 at some places as well. Now, sports, mostly because of questions surrounding surgery on his right knee in March. So there's a question about him. He still arrived in Augusta this week saying he's going to be a contender. He's talking about even winning, and it looks like he has that possibility at 25-1 or higher. Not a bad guy to bet on. Meanwhile, you got Cameron Smith at 40-1. He's a 27-year-old Australian golfer. His course history is in his corner. Smith is tied for second, 5 strokes behind Johnson in November. He also tied for 5th in 2018. Now, the pro money has shown on Smith since his odds went to 70-1, then it dropped down. Once they came in at 70-1, dropped them down to 40-1. Finally, you have Adam Scott, 65-1, another Australian. He excels at Augusta. He's the Masters winner in 2013. He ranks in the Tour's top 30 in driving distance. The DeChambeau, of course, he's number 1 in that field. And he should make a run for the money if he gets his putter to do what he would like it to do. So if you're looking for a real long shot, look at Adam Scott at 65-1. The pros like Cameron Smith at 40-1. They brought it back down. It was up as high as 70-1. You have Bruce Koepka at 25-1. Justin Thomas at 11-1. And, of course, the favorite in this situation is Jordan Spieth and Dustin Johnson. So depending on what you want to do, it's totally up to you as to what the story is, and that's the way it's going to be working out for everyone. Again, golf is becoming more and more a very important betting aspect. There was a time when hardly anybody bet on golf. It was almost impossible to find a sports book that would even handle golf. Now it's one of the fastest growing. It's exponentially growing faster than any of the other sports. But of course, it'll never be, or not say never, but it's not anywhere near the NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball, even hockey, which is a boutique sport. So, but it's getting there, getting more and more action every day. And now that they're back into the schedule, the PGA Tour is on, you're going to be looking at a lot of money coming out on this game, on this particular tournament that starts on Thursday. So that's the story out of Augusta. We'll keep a close eye on it. We'll probably do a little bit more about it tomorrow. If there's any changes that we want to make to it, we'll tell you about that as well. In the meantime, let's go over the 3 games we talked about today as far as betting on baseball, because baseball is now in progress. Already started. You have the Atlanta Braves against the Nationals. The pros like the Braves in that particular game. St. Louis against Miami. The pros are on Miami. And finally, the late game at 8:05. You have the Blue Jays against the Rangers. And, of course, the pros are on the Blue Jays in that particular game as well. So that's the story. Thank you very much for listening. We've been coming to you live from Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll be back again tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here Monday through Friday, 4 p.m., Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. So if you're going to be betting the NBA or any of the baseball games or any National Hockey League games today, by all means, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you do very, very well. In the meantime, have a very pleasant Tuesday. But like I always say, in addition for it to be pleasant, also, hopefully, it'll be profitable as well. So thank you very much for listening. We've been coming to you live on the I-95 Sports and Entertainment Network. Perhaps you might be listening to us on one of our podcast platforms, such as Apple Podcasts or Amazon or iHeartRadio, maybe some other one that we haven't even mentioned to you as well. So until tomorrow at 4 p.m., I'm Chris Pardo. Thank you very much for listening. keep an eye on those baseball games. We'll keep an eye on them. We'll bring it up to date to you tomorrow. Give you a good idea as to what's going on as far as the pros are concerned. These games that are coming up. So until tomorrow, have a very pleasant Tuesday. And like I said, I hopefully, if you're betting, you have a profitable Tuesday as well. Goodbye, everybody.